Okay, so the next thing I want to sort of talk about here is this topic of ego, because often the sales manager, when they're in a meeting with the customer and the customer starts to address the sales manager's ego can suddenly take over. You know, we start to think that, well, you know, I've got manager on my business card, so greatness is in the room. Let's just think that through, because the objective is to build the salesperson. Many salespeople say to us, when I go out and do joint visits with my boss, he says he's going to let me do the meeting, and he always takes over. So let's just think that through. So I've got a question, and the question is this. Does anybody watch Superman, the series? You've seen Superman, the series? Okay, so we've got Clark Kent, and Clark Kent is mild-mannered reporter, and he works for the Daily Planet. And as we know, a typical day in Clark's life would be he'd be walking to the newspaper office, and he'd maybe be walking in the sidewalk, and at the end of the street he could possibly see, because he's got Superman sense, that the baddies are robbing the bank. So what does he do? He runs into the local phone box, he spins around a few times, and out he comes with his cape and his underpants on the wrong side. He flies up into the air, lands outside the bank just as the crooks are coming out of the bank with the money that they've stolen. And the first thing he does is he stops the crooks and he beats up the crooks, takes the money off them, just in time for the police force from Metropolis, which is the city he works in, to arrive. And he very calmly gives the money from the bank back to the tellers, and he picks up the dazed crooks, who are still dazed because he's just sort of beaten them up, and gives them to the Metropolis police force. So the question is this. What do you think the crook-catching skills of the Metropolis police force is like? Well, they're not very good. They don't have to be, because they've got Superman. And if you, as the sales manager, continually interrupt sales meetings with your salesperson's customer to try and retrieve a situation because you think the salesperson's going to lose it, then you are behaving like super sales manager. So, a sobering thought, the next time that you're in a meeting with your salesperson for the purpose of coaching, and you're about to interrupt that meeting, you're about to take over because you think the salesperson might lose the deal, I want you to visualize yourself reaching into your briefcase, pulling out a pair of red underwear and putting them on over the outside of your trousers. That's what you're doing. You're about to become super sales manager. So we don't want to do that. We just want to observe and give the salesperson feedback after the event. And the reason is this. If the salesperson makes a mistake, or maybe doesn't do the meeting as you would prefer them to, if they behave like that when you're there, how do you think they'll behave when you're not there? Exactly the same. The difference is you won't be there to observe it. And if you can't see it, you won't be able to manage it and do something to improve it. So, let's move on, and we're now going to talk about the feedback session. And this is where we've finished our observation, the meeting's effectively over, we leave the customer, and we're now going to give the salesperson some feedback on how the meeting went.